Hello, everyone. We are live. Just want to welcome you to our Arvin and Lamont meeting. Give me one moment as I fix my slides. Okay, share my screen again. Okay. Welcome again, everybody. My name is Liz. I am joined here tonight by my colleague and co-facilitator, Amy. Tonight, before we jump into our welcome and introductions, we'll take a few minutes to set up our interpretation, and then we'll go through our logistics and housekeeping slides. So I believe I will pass it to our Linguistica team to walk us through how to set up your interpretation.
Thank you, Liz. Buenas noches. El día de hoy tenemos el servicio de interpretación disponible para aquellos que lo requieran. Si se están conectando desde una computadora, en la parte de abajo del menú de Zoom van a ver el icono que parece un mundo que dice interpretación o interpretation. Seleccionan ese icono, seleccionan español y luego silenciar el audio original para que puedan escuchar solo la interpretación al español. Si se están conectando desde una tableta o desde un dispositivo móvil, las opciones son diferentes. Van a tocar la pantalla y van a seleccionar los 3 puntos y luego la opción interpretación de idiomas. Seleccionan español nuevamente y silenciar el audio original y al terminar finalizado, terminado o listo. Ahora voy a dar las mismas instrucciones pero en inglés. Good evening, everyone. Today we'll have interpretation available for those who need it. If you're joining from a computer, at the bottom of the Zoom menu, you will see a word-like icon that says interpretation. You can select it and then select English. And if you're joining from a tablet or your phone, you can select your screen, select the 3 dots, also language interpretation, and then select English, and then finish or done. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Diana. Let us know if the interpretation isn't working for you or if you're having any trouble. We will be happy to help. So moving forward, on your screen, you're seeing the renaming conventions. So this is important for our attendance tracking and stipend distribution process. We ask that if you are a member of the CSC, please indicate that in your Zoom name. And if you are a resident, you can also add R. This helps us differentiate who is here, and this is especially important for tonight's agenda, where we might have come to a vote, in which case we'll organize you all by name. So you might see us going in there and changing your Zoom name. On this slide, we have another reminder for the renaming conventions. So if you're not a member of the CSC, we still ask that you provide your organization name so we can identify who is a member of the public. Here's our virtual meeting etiquette. So please make sure to stay muted unless you are speaking. If you are joining by the phone, you can press *6 to mute and unmute yourself. If you have a question or would like to share any thoughts or comments, we ask that you raise your Zoom hand. And if you are on the phone, you can do that by pressing *9. We also ask that residents who are in the stipend program, please stay for at least 75% of the meeting, which is 90 minutes of our 2-hour meeting tonight. So this slide is a review of your group agreements. So everyone here has agreed to help achieve the meeting goals by focusing on solutions, opportunities, and productive dialogue. We also want to make sure that we're mindful of creating space for everyone to participate. So for some, that might mean stepping up, and others that might mean stepping back. We also ask for everyone to be kind and respectful, knowing that it's okay to disagree. We just ask that you do so with respect and with empathy. In these meetings, we also agreed to stay on point and on time. So we ask for folks to keep their comments brief and to the point so we can keep on track with our agenda. And as we've mentioned before, if we are running a little late, we will we will bring back the decision to the CSC and ask how you all would like to use the remaining time. So next, we agreed to attack the problem and not the person. And then finally, we all agreed to seek common ground. Building consensus and finding shared values will help achieve the best results. And on this slide is the agenda for this evening. So again, these are topics that are representative of those that are requested by CSE members, which come from past CSE meetings, as well as our agenda setting meetings. So we'll have our welcome and introductions, and we'll have our usual review of the action item tracker. Then we'll move to our heavy duty truck measure discussion. And for that item, we will be looking for consensus. If we don't come to a consensus, we will bring that to a vote potentially. So a little more on that later. Next, I'm not sure how to remove these little scribbles, but next we have the CERT measure implementation updates. And then we will have our usual standing updates and then wrap up the meeting with next steps. And I'll stop sharing my screen. And so at this point, I'm happy to open it up for some introductions and opening remarks. I'm happy to start us out and invite our two co-leads. I believe Bianca and Cesar are here tonight. I see a lot of names. If you are here, would love to invite you for some opening remarks.
I want to thank the Air District for giving this open dialogue to the community members, and ready for community members that we've talked, and I think we have a very interesting meeting today. Thank you.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Bianca. And Cesar, I'm not sure if you're here. Just want to pause and see if you are, if there's anything you'd like to share.
I believe he's not going to be here, but Eliana is taking his place right now. I don't know if she's in.
Okay. Liliana, I don't know if I see you here, but feel free to drop in the chat if you have any opening remarks that you'd like to share. And also happy to pass it to our team at the Air District for some brief opening remarks before we move forward with the agenda. Oh, actually, I see a hand from Jesus. If you have a question, comment.
I just wanted to share a quick announcement for our Arvin and Lamont residents. Hi, my name is Jesus Perez, and I work for, I attend these meetings as a resident of Lamont, but I also work for our county supervisor. And we have an event coming up where you can meet the supervisor if you haven't met him already, or engage in dialogue with him. And I know there's topics that have been elevated recently, but any topic is welcomed to meet with him. It's called Soup with the Soup, SOUP, like soup, and we will be needing an RSVP so that we can kind of cover a certain amount of, I don't know if it's going to be 25 people or 50 people to actually purchase the soup for them so that they can enjoy some type of an appetizer or a light dinner with the supervisor.
Jesus, if it's okay, this sounds really interesting, and I'm sure the community definitely does want to hear more. We do have an opportunity at the end of the meeting
Oh, sure
for
thing.
general updates from the CSC. So if it's
Yeah.
okay, at
Yeah,
that
if
point,
you
can I
could send me
invite you
some
back for
information,
more?
it'd be nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you could send me some information, it'd be nice.
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely make sure to come back to that. We'll have time for that at the end of the meeting, and also feel free to put it in the chat before then. Thank you for sharing that. And so I think Ryan, would love to pass it to you if there's anything you want to share.
Thanks, Liz. I just want to thank everybody once again for being here tonight and continuing to participate, and definitely bringing your voices into providing recommendations to us to move forward with implementing the community emission reduction program that all of you work so hard and developing. And I hope this is just another one of many steps that we're going to be moving forward. Several of the measures that are in the community emission reduction program tonight.
Thank you, Ryan. So happy to move us along in our agenda. So next we will have our review of the action items tracker. So this is to help facilitate transparency and accountability between the Air District and the community. The Air District continuously updates this tracker that's available to the community at any point online. This helps make sure that your requests are documented and that you are able to engage in the follow-up and track any progress. And I see there's a hand up from Mario, so please do share.
Yes, I just want to thank the young lady who called me this morning to give me some information for the monitors. I appreciate speaking with me, and hopefully we could get it. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
That was me, Mario. It was a pleasure to chat with you this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much to give me some information. And that's what I'm talking about. Reaching out, giving the information, and that's the way we grow. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. I totally agree. Thanks for saying so.
Yeah, thank you for adding that and sharing that feedback. I know the Air District team does really appreciate hearing that. And so we can move to our action item review, and I believe I will pass it to Nancy, who will walk us through that.
Hi, everybody. This is Nancy. So I am covering for Eric, and I will go ahead and be sharing the action items. I did drop the link in the comments section. And let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, is everybody able to see this? Perfect. All right, so just a quick little review. So we did update the way that the action items look. So we did create a table of contents. And then so if you want to learn more about this or have further questions, I will go ahead and drop my contact information down below. That way we can, chat about it, and we can, I will be more than happy to walk you through any of these processes. All right, so I will go ahead and begin. So the first action item comes from in progress. So this is from the previous meeting in August. The action item reads, and this is geared towards us. So this revisit truck project plan updates and enforcement discussion at the next meeting. And so the outcome for this was the Air District will bring back the truck project plan discussion during the September 27 Arvin Lamont CSC meeting, which is tonight. So we will continue discussing the truck replacement program further. And then so if you want, so with this new action item tracker, if you want to return back, just go ahead and click here where it says return to beginning, and it will take you straight back to the table of contents. And then so moving forward to our next action item, it's going to be with the ongoing. So go ahead and click and it's going to take you to the latest action item. And this is going to be for the ongoing. And so this is from the previous CSC meeting in August as well. And so the Air District will reach out to the dealerships about showcasing trucks in Arvin, Lamont to raise awareness. The outcome for this was the Air District will share information when local dealerships hold truck showcase events in the South Kern County area. And so we only did have 2 action items that are for review for today's meeting. And so I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has any comments, questions, concerns right now. I see Jesus Alonso.
The trucks, would that be as part of the car replacement program or for the fleet program or the fleet exchange one?
And if, let's see, I
Nancy,
see
this is,
Ryan or Janine. Yes,
this is
there we go.
Janine. Yeah, I could probably help out on that one. I believe the context that action item came about from was when we were first discussing the truck plan. That would be the proposed revisions to the truck CERT measure. And somebody had commented and asked if we could help to arrange or bring information to the community for when the dealerships can have trucks, like a show and tell event. And so we have been reaching out to various dealerships and communicating with them to try to see what their latest schedule is for when trucks will be in the area and whether or not we can coordinate something that is a reasonable time for the Arvin Lamont community to have some EV trucks come in for folks to see.
Okay, thank you. And the second question I had, and I don't know if this is in a different part of the tracking system. I know a while back we said we would be able to go back and review the car replacement program and discuss being able to stack the incentives for replacing a vehicle. I know through AB 617, I think we said 20 grand per vehicle. And I wanted to see if when do we have planned to have that discussion to be able to stack that with the car memorial program, I think it is, or the Valley, I can't remember the Valley can.
Jesus, are you speaking about like passenger vehicles, passenger cars?
Yes.
Okay, I do believe we have an agenda item today. I'm not sure who might be the best one in the group here
yeah, I was going to answer that.
Okay, great.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to tee up the conversation. We're looking to bring Valley Can in next month, Jesus. And we will definitely, during that conversation, talk about the potential for, stacking funding. So we'll have more information about that, but we'll be teeing that up and for conversation here in a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And another question from Mario.
Yes, what I want to know, are you guys gonna do a show here in Lamont and Arvin, or are you guys gonna do it somewhere else?
For the trucks, Mario, are you talking about for the trucks?
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of still up in the air. We still need to get some feedback from the dealerships because they typically will have a small set of number of trucks that the manufacturer provides throughout the entire state, and they travel between dealership to dealership for demonstration purposes. So we are waiting to hear back from some of the dealerships in the Kern County area as to when they'll have demo trucks, and then seeing if we can coordinate something directly in Arvin Lamont, or if it would have to remain at their dealership facility, which we'll have various different ones. So our hope is that we can find a dealer who can bring the trucks directly into Arvin Lamont at some public place. to put on like a demonstration type event.
Yeah, I prefer something like that because like that we will give the people from here, you know, a little bit knowledge about what's going on with these programs. And because if we do it somewhere else, it don't do no good for Lamont and Arvin.
Yeah,
Nobody's getting no information. And that's the point where I'm at, because if people don't have information for these trucks and programs, it don't do no good for us. I mean, for Lamont and Arvin,
yeah,
especially if you don't show them here. Because see, a lot of people from here don't know about nothing about these programs. I do because I'm in it. But a lot of people from here do not know what programs out there. And that's the point where I want electrical billboard to give out information. And that's the reason that I want public announcement and stuff like that. But if you say the Kern County, it does no good if you don't show it here.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely understood.
This program will not work for me, because I do this for my community. I do this for my people.
Yeah.
And it won't work for me if I don't see the trucks and giving the information to the people from Lamont and Arvin.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will definitely do our best to find a dealership who will be willing to work with us on that and who can potentially have demonstration equipment that they can bring directly into the community. So that does take a little time. Like I said, they're scheduled out for specific times to receive demo equipment. So we kind of have to wait to see when that equipment will be in the area, and then what time slots might still be available for us to get that equipment into the community. So we'll definitely continue to work with our dealerships in the area on that to see if we can get something put together soon.
Yeah, I would like to see, you know, to show here in Lamont and Arvin.
Mhm.
I thought
Absolutely.
get more information, and you never know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have one more question from Jesus.
Hi everyone, sorry, I remembered another event I was thinking of, the lawnmower replacement, where, you know, new electric lawnmowers are brought into the community and people are able to replace them. I know I saw a flyer several weeks back. I think staff were handing out flyers about the program, but it wasn't the one where they come into the community. It's where you have to go and do the replacements yourselves.
Hey, Jesus, it's Ryan again. That's also on tonight's agenda, and so we're going to be having more discussion about that and kind of the process that we're undergoing right now to be able to do that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, great questions. And it sounds like folks are ready for the agenda that we have tonight. A lot of CERT measures that the community is really interested in moving forward, and I'm glad we'll be able to present more on those questions. And so happy to move us along. I think those two hands are old for the action items. Yes, thank you. So I can move us along to our next agenda item, which is the heavy duty truck measure discussion. So again, as many of you may recall, our last CSC meeting involved a very lively discussion of the Air District's proposed changes to the heavy duty truck replacement CERT measure after seeing a lack of engagement in this measure across the valley. The Air District has done a lot of work since then to meet with CSC members and gain deeper insight to your concerns and to answer any questions that the CSC has had regarding any new changes. I'm getting a battery low on my headphones. Give me 1 second. Can you still hear me? Okay, great. So tonight, the purpose of this agenda item again is to answer any questions that the CSC might have regarding the new changes, have any final discussion, and the Air District will share the changes that they have made so far. And then once we close out that discussion, the process that we will use is to find if there's a consensus. We will first ask if anybody objects to the proposed changes. If at least one member does object, then we would move to a vote. And that process might be familiar for many of our members. So in that case, we would break out into small groups and actually vote one by one and tally up the results. So we're prepared to come to a vote if it does come to that, but we could also find consensus together. And so without further ado, would love to pass it to our Air District team to get us started with continuing that conversation.
Great. Thank you so much, Liz. I will start off the conversation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Janine Tackett, who's a supervising air quality specialist who does such an amazing job of explaining this proposal much better than me. And so, but kind of where we're at and, kind of how we got here. The community prioritized the heavy duty truck replacement as one of the main items of the community emissions reduction program. And we opened up the program several months ago, and we've been having challenges across all 4 of the valley-based AB 617 selected communities with this measure because of the relative lack of equipment and some concerns with people that were looking at the program with having to immediately scrap a vehicle that pose significant concerns from people that have heavy duty diesel trucks. And so we started the conversation with the community on was it still a priority, and if so, what are some alternatives that we can consider? And so we've been having a lot of discussions with all of our AB 617 communities and trying to incorporate all the feedback that we were getting and bringing that into the conversations that we're having with each of the communities. And so tonight we have some proposals that we definitely want to hopefully there's unanimous support or consensus from the committee on the concept. And if there's not, love to hear the feedback from all of you. So with that, I will turn it over. Janine, you have the slides, or?
I do. Would you like me to go ahead and share screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me
Thank you.
just a second here. Let me get this, make sure I get it into presentation mode. Oh my, I don't have enough screens here, I don't think. Let me do this first. Okay. All right, is everybody seeing that in presentation mode, hopefully?
No, we still see the slide.
Just the regular?
Yeah.
I was afraid of that. How about now?
There we go. That works.
All right. Woohoo. Success number 1 for the night. Okay, so this will kind of start our section for the SERP implementation updates. Let me go ahead and move along. Today, we've got a few different updates. We're going to start with the trucks, as Ryan mentioned, but we'll also be covering the passenger vehicle repair and replace updates, as well as residential lawn and garden measures. So I'll go ahead and start off with our heavy duty truck measure discussion. I'm going to flip through some of these slides pretty quick here on you guys. Just a quick refresher for everybody. We do have in place the truck replacement measure allocated with $5 million. And this is a traditional replacement where somebody owning a heavy duty diesel truck that wants to replace with a low NOx CNG, which is near zero emission, or an electric or hydrogen, which is zero emission truck, can apply for the program, receive funding, crush their old truck, and get money for the new truck. The problem is nobody's applied for it. And so over the course of the last several months, we've been doing a lot of investigation and talking to fleets throughout the valley to find out why. So some of the things that we did find that were challenges for local businesses, and especially the smaller fleets, single owner operators and small fleets of 2, 3, 4 trucks, is that they had a lot of grave concerns about immediately having to crush that diesel truck that they are familiar with for a new truck technology type that they weren't sure how it was going to work, where, what challenges they might have with it. And so they were very uneasy about that, especially our smaller fleets and our local businesses, because they can't afford to be without a truck. So if something does happen with that new technology where they might have to work through it with the manufacturer or dealership, or learn new ways of managing their equipment, they had concerns that their business would suffer in the process. So we did conduct a lot of outreach across the valley, and we found actually throughout the entire state, we spoke with other air districts and such, and we found this to be a problem throughout fleets throughout the entire state. San Diego Air Pollution Control District, as many of you may remember from our previous discussions, did a similar plan because they also had the exact same issues being presented by their fleets. And so we really kind of took the lead from San Diego and utilized a lot of aspects from their approved plan to do theirs is a new purchase. So they're not crushing an old truck, they're just displacing the diesel miles. And we started modeling a plan after that. So through the process of engaging with the community and all of you folks, we got a lot of great feedback. We heard a lot of concerns about that new purchase option, where what happens to that diesel truck? Could it be put back in service? So we did do some adjustments, and we did try to incorporate those concerns and comments that we received from the community. So what we're looking at here are some of the high-level aspects of what this proposed plan is looking like today. This would be an incentive program for fleet owners with trucks that impact the Arvin Lamont community boundaries. We would be looking to focus primarily on fleets domiciled or trucks that are living or are garaged within the community boundaries. But we do recognize that there could be some fleets just outside your boundaries that have service routes in your community. And we don't want to eliminate those trucks because they are operating daily or predominantly within the community boundaries. So we would be looking at both of those types of scenarios. We would be offering a much more increased incentive. One of the things we heard from fleet owners was the financial risk in new technology. It is very expensive, and they do have to do infrastructure also, which there is funding for that portion too. But this increased funding would take them up to 90% of the eligible cost of the equipment, not to exceed $500,000 on a large Class 8 truck. The trucks that would be eligible would go all the way down to a Class 4. So that would be your small box truck or delivery style truck as well. There are requirements for the number of trips, the minimum number of trips that must be made within the community boundaries to be eligible for this funding. And one of the new components is that we shifted away from a new purchase, and we did place back into the plan a scrappage requirement. However, based on the concerns that we heard from the fleets, we have created a delayed scrappage. So this is different than the existing program that has been open, in that it still does require them to eventually crush that diesel truck, but it gives them up to 9 months with the possibility of an extension with some, certain circumstances before they have to crush it. And we found this to be hopefully the best compromise between the concerns and comments of the community and the concerns and comments of the fleet owners, in that it will give the fleet owners that time that they need to get adjusted to the new technology, to make sure it's operating correctly, make sure it's working in their business structure correctly before they have to give up that diesel truck. One of the big concerns we did hear was recently Nikolai, manufacturer who has EV trucks out there, had to recall all of their trucks because of a major issue. And so fleets got, again, really scared, like, oh, what do I do if my truck gets recalled? I won't have a truck to do my job with. So this allows them that time, that kind of cushion to get comfortable and make sure all the kinks are worked out, so to speak, before they do have to then crush that truck. So we're hoping that that extra flexibility comforts the fleet owners, and the eventual scrappage requirement helps to address any concerns that the community members may have had about what eventually happens to that diesel truck. And I guess I went through those slides really fast. Before I kind of do this one, I see Mario, you have your hand up. Maybe I can help address any questions you have.
Yes, I got like 2 questions. Saying that you sell these electric trucks to the company, but they don't got no power source to charge up the trucks. The state is not give them money to put a station in their company, or two, not only that, depends on what location they go. Are there, stations for electrical for those trucks to move around? Because I noticed that it was just one complaint what they had, but they didn't complain about, charging stations or nothing like that. That's what I'm asking.
So the current technology of EV trucks, of electric trucks, the range is not really big yet. So they're best suited for short delivery type routes. These would be trucks ideally that are returning back to home base either throughout the day or at the end of the day, depending on how long of a route they have. So we do have money available through your CERT measures for infrastructure, charging infrastructure. There is also funding through the power companies that can be partnered with our funding. And typically when a fleet approaches us and says, hey, we're interested in this program, we want to transition and get an electric truck, the first thing we ask them is, have you started the conversation with your power company about your charging infrastructure? And if they have not, we help them to make that connection first so that they can find out, number one, do they have power to their facility sufficient for what they need? And if not, how long will it take for the power company to get that set up for them? Then we can help work with them on timing for getting an application in for the truck replacement portion, and work together with their infrastructure project and their truck project so that they don't put the cart before the horse, so to speak. We don't want them to get the truck and not have any chargers available. In most cases, because of the type of work that these new trucks are best suited for, we're likely going to see most companies want to install a charger at their facility where their trucks are garaged. Now, eventually, we will probably see larger fueling stations. I shouldn't say we will likely see. I know we will see, because I know that they're planning on this and they've already started the engineering to have it happen. But like our big truck stops, Loves and places like that, they are working on designing truck charging stations at their facilities. So we will eventually see, as the technology gets longer range and capacity to drive further, we will see all of our traditional truck stop locations that right now have diesel fuel also offer EV charging for those trucks. So yeah, hopefully I answered that for you.
My concern is, okay, you say that you guys are gonna give them more money to help them out to put a charging station. Is that money the same money for the truck or how that works?
That's a different pot of money. So it is a
Okay.
separate pot of money, specially for a heavy duty charging infrastructure. It would not come from that 5 million that's allocated for trucks.
Okay, and two, I had another question on, I asked that person when we had a meeting. When you guys get the truck, you say you guys dismantle it or you guys sell it to another state like that to get revenue for, to get for more projects.
I'm sorry, I don't think I quite understood your question.
Okay, saying that I buy an electrical truck,
Mhm.
but you guys take it, and so you guys are gonna dismantle it, but you guys don't not dismantle it, you guys sell it to another state?
No, it would be a dismantle. So the requirements for that scrappage is that a hole a certain size is punched in the engine block that compromises the seal of the engine to oil pan. Also, the frame rails of the truck are cut, completely cut across both sides. And there are potentially parts and pieces that could be salvaged and resold from the truck, such as the cab or the wheels or things of that nature. But the emission producing portion and the truck as a whole is permanently disabled. We also require that through DMV, it's called a Reg 42. It's a special form that DMV has for the dismantler that will permanently remove that VIN number from the system so that it cannot ever be registered again. So
Right.
it's not like a salvaged vehicle that you can go buy from the scrapyard, fix up and put back on the road. That VIN number can never be re-registered.
Okay, and two, the money what they get for recycled parts, do you guys put it back in the program or you guys?
No. So when the fleet owner takes his truck to the dismantling facility, if the dismantler is offering a scrappage, or I should say recycling fee price, which they often do, it's pretty minimal, a few $100s, that's available to the fleet owner. They can accept that money from the dismantler and be done with it. But we do not ask for that money to come back to us in any way. So if it's available, the fleet owner can take it because it is a very minimal amount of money.
Yeah, because trucks value is more than a car. I work on cars and I work on diesel trucks. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people, they recycle parts. I'm
Yeah.
talking thousands of dollars. That's why.
Yeah. And I know that is a big portion of a dismantler's business, is to, sell recycled parts and such. We ask them to do above and beyond what their normal dismantle activities would be, without any financial compensation from us. So I guess it's a little bit maybe of a trade-off there. The parts and pieces that they can strip off the truck help to compensate for the work that they do to dismantle the trucks for us. Some facilities will do a complete shearing where they just shred it into 1,000 little metal pieces, and then that metal is recycled. So
Yeah, because if we recycle parts of these diesel trucks, then we ain't gonna get all these trucks out of the system.
well, the state regulation does have a part to play in that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about.
Yeah. So
that's my
ultimately, there will be a backstop that the trucks, and I'll be honest with you, in my years of working with the dismantlers, most of the parts and pieces are sold off to Mexico rather than staying in California because of the regulations in California and the fact that many of these older trucks are being phased out. So oftentimes they do end up down in Mexico, but again, not the engines, not the chassis. It's going to be more of the body parts and things of that nature.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Gabriella, I see your hand up.
Sí, Mi pregunta es, no sé si no entendí bien, pero voy a hacer de todos modos mi pregunta y mi comentario. Es acerca de los camiones más pequeños de los que están hablando. Sí, ¿de qué manera ustedes van a decidir que son elegibles bajo el programa de nuestra comunidad, que viene siendo Arvin Lamont? Ustedes ya tienen como un mapa parecido al que nosotros, por la manera en que calificamos en la 617, de que esos camiones van a circular en nuestra área, o cuántas millas van a circular de nuestra área de donde vienen, para que sean elegibles. Esa es mi pregunta. Y mi comentario es que deberían de tomar en cuenta eso, si esa es una posibilidad, si está en las opciones que ustedes están buscando, porque el beneficio debe de ser en la comunidad.
Yes, thank you for your comment. We will be using that same map, the AB 617 boundary map. When a fleet applies, they have to show us where they're driving, what their route is, and we will see how much of that route falls inside that boundary, that map. And that's how we will best determine which trucks are eligible. They have to do at least minimum 52 trips inside that community boundary each year. Many will be doing much more than that, but that would be the minimum. And so we will be mapping all of those and checking to make sure that they are either living in the boundary and servicing the boundary inside the community, or they're traveling into the community for a portion of their time that's designated in the plan.
Yeah, great questions. And I see quite a few hands just popped up. I want to recognize we have maybe about 10 more minutes for discussion, 10 to 15 more minutes. So we'll do our best to get through all of these questions, and we can start with Tim.
I heard that on there that the Air District talked to several fleets regarding this issue before making the final decision on how you proceed. Can you provide us a list of the fleets? Because the idea of giving incentive money to companies that are not within the boundaries so they can change their fleet would be kind of a reverse Robin Hood, because you're taking from disadvantaged communities to give to profit-driven companies to basically do their own work that they should have done with their own profit. So we're if we could be provided a list of these companies that you spoke to, so we could make our own analysis regarding the issue and see if we should give up this sort of money to companies that are not within our boundaries.
Mm-hmm. So the proposal is a first come, first serve. It's not a solicitation where we're going to create a list of interested applicants and then make a selection. It would be, do you meet the minimum eligibility requirements? If so, we process your application and move forward. Now, I think the intent, and keep in mind that the project plan is for multiple communities with flexibility for each community to say, we want to make sure fleets are inside and are living in our community, or we don't care where they live. We want to know that the truck that's running in our community is being replaced. So we have that flexibility, and we can implement that flexibility based on each community's wants and desires. So in what I'm hearing from this community is that your preference is for fleets that live inside your boundaries. We are working with the California Air Resources Board to get a list of trucks that are registered with the state, and where their address, their living address is, so that we can help better outreach to fleets that live inside your community. And those would be the ones that we would obviously want to target first. However, if there's not enough interest, we would we would look to then fleets outside the community, but that are operating and driving in your community. So hopefully that answered your question, Tim. I think,
in a sense, it did answer my question, but wouldn't it be also easier for, since we allocated this money on the SERBs when we proposed them, wouldn't it be easier to, if nobody's interested in applying, reanalyze and put the money somewhere in other measures that are more feasible and community would apply for? Because regarding the issue of us giving money to fleets and they're not wanting to come, so well, you can't put a plate and expect them to come and sit down and eat. We could move it to another one that are more interested.
Yeah, on that topic, Tim, you know, if the community is supportive of making this change, and say 2 years down the road, you know, just hypothetical situation, if people weren't interested, we would absolutely bring it back to the committee and say, hey, we're not seeing interest in this. You know, is it the community's desire to look to reallocate these funds towards other measures? We're going to have that conversation about any of the measures in your community emission reduction program where we're not seeing movement. Now, what we're going to do first in those situations is making sure that we are doing all the outreach that we need, that we're getting the word out to the people that need to get it before we would consider reallocating those funds, because the community did work hard to come up with an allocation for these different measures, and so ideally we're going to be able to fully expend the funds for each of the measures that we have. But if that's not the case, we are going to bring that back. We're going to let the community know. We're going to communicate with you throughout that process.
okay. In the sake of time, we'll keep moving. Bianca, I think you're next up with a hand raised.
My question is in regards to the trips that you were mentioning. There are 52 trips. So if we make the map correctly, it's one trip per week that passes through the community. My question is, are you guys going to do any GPS on those vehicles so we could at least know that they're trustworthy to say, you know what, they passed through the community, they did all these changes? Because to be honest, we're just giving, it's a lot of money. It's a big pot of money that is given out to companies now that you're mentioning outside the boundary. And that's concerning because community members have fought for this money for so much, and to be given out outside the boundaries, it's as you mentioned, we're able to change those criterias. But at the same time, you were mentioning, if you don't see any changes, you're going to open it up to other public. So my question is, the Air District going to do any type of measurements as a GPS to make sure they do pass through it? And if they don't qualify, would they return that money back to the SERP? Because if it's not given correctly as it should, would there be any repercussion on the owner that is not, or the company that is not fulfilling that grant?
Yes. So we can't ask everybody for GPS because that requires them to invest in not just the equipment on the truck, but the software system to keep track of all that information. But there are other things within the trucking industry that can also identify those same things. So for example, if you have a delivery vehicle that's making a once a week delivery to a grocery store, let's just say it's the bread truck, they're delivering the bread. They have record of every stop that they make to deliver bread, what location that was, the address, the store name, and down to the quantity of bread they delivered. So there are lots of different ways that documentation, GPS is one of them. And I'll be honest, the really big companies pretty much all use GPS. The smaller companies, not so much because they can't afford it. So we will work with the fleets, and we will absolutely, as part of the application process and ongoing monitoring, be checking to make sure. Our contracts will also have requirements that they do a certain amount of usage in that community boundary. And if they do not do that, then they would be subject to the penalties in the contract, of which could be up to full repayment of those incentive funds. So yes, there's definitely checking to make sure that it's not just, hey, tell me that you're doing 52 trips and check a box and we'll say it's good. No, they have to give us documentation. Not always GPS. There are other types of documents, but it does have to be legitimate documents. And then, yes, our contracts will have, call it some teeth in it, so that if they don't follow the requirements, they would be subject to having to give the money back. Okay, moving on. Gustavo.
Thank you. I think adding to the comments already made, you know, this project is, it doesn't have any certain that it's going to work. It's an experiment. I think as mentioned, you know, these communities work hard to be selected, and just been trying to implement something that is, we don't have proof that is working somewhere else. You know, and, you know, I think as Ryan mentioned, you know, in the chapter 617 project, funding that was not used as initial was planned is being reallocated for other community projects that residents are identifying as priorities. So I don't think it's the right decision for us to change anything at this point of that SERP, maybe keeping it as is right now. And eventually, you know, if fleets start applying, that would be great. Or if there are other projects, you know, you mentioned San Diego is having one, you know, eventually if their project is working, we can revisit that idea. But I think at this point it's just, in my opinion, wasting money to see if that works or not. And I think, you know, this community has been looking forward, you know, to cleaner air, that I don't think we should, you know, risk the funding that we have. I would prefer, as Ryan mentioned, you know, maybe wait and if the current process, you know, or the way we approved it at the beginning is not working, maybe revisiting and reallocating those funding for other SERPs, expanding other SERPs, you know, that will benefit the community. But to me, you know, this doesn't have any measures or any way for us to see that the program is going to work. So, you know, I'm not in support of making those changes.
Understood. Thank you for your comments. The only thing I probably could share on that is that if it doesn't work, the money is still there to be reallocated, no different than where it's at right now. And if the community feels that sticking to strictly fleets based inside the community boundaries is what your desire is, this plan would allow for that. So we could, you know, always tighten that up. The plan does allow that flexibility for the community to say, we only want to fund fleets that are living inside our community boundaries. And if nobody applies, then we come back and we say, hey, nobody's applying, just like before, let's discuss reallocation of funds. So that is still available, even if you were to move forward with this plan. So thank you so much, Gustavo, for sharing your thoughts.
Just to add very briefly,
Gustavo.
Very briefly, another point is, and the other piece is that the money most likely will go to big companies, which, you know, because small companies with 1 or 2 trucks will not have the capacity to have 1 extra truck. So as
Gustavo,
you mentioned, that will go to the money, companies with money, and that's not appropriate.
yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so sorry to interrupt. I'm looking at the time and I know we have another packed agenda.
No, this is important. You need to give us time.
Oh yeah, definitely. And thank you for that. And I am interrupting hoping that we can maybe move to more of a collective decision-making process. Sounds like a lot of people have questions that might still need some answers and perhaps more time to think. And I think we will likely not be reaching consensus tonight. But in that case, we will move to a vote so we can get a better idea of where everybody stands. We do recognize that there are more hands up. And if that means that you vote no, then we will continue the discussion at a future meeting. And Ryan, I see you unmuted, so I'll give you a chance to share.
Yeah, Liz, I think we probably have another 20 minutes. Looking at the rest of the agenda, we allocated another 20 minutes for the discussion of vehicle replacement and lawn and garden. You know, I believe that should be, it's probably not going to take the whole 40 minutes. And so I think we have some time there. I just wanted to kind of one of the points that Gustavo was bringing up in regards to, you know, the kind of what we've seen in other, you know, other areas. And so, you know, prior to this discussion, one of the things we did do is we reached out and we did speak with San Diego and, you know, what they've seen. You know, the reason why we're looking at this is, you know, kind of going back to the whole reason why the community prioritized this was getting, you know, one of the, you know, biggest contributor to pollution in the community is mobile sources and specifically heavy duty trucks. And I don't need to remind everybody, but you know, the diesel that gets burned actually creates toxic compounds that are known to cause, you know, significant health impacts. And so kind of getting to the point, why would we prioritize this? You know, why would the community prioritize this? Why would the community need this? It's for that reason. And you know, it's this technology is getting out there and it is beginning to get used more and more often. And the unfortunate thing that's happened historically is, you know, the most of the time you see the benefits, it's the bigger cities, it's the port of LA, it's the Port of Long Beach, it's these other areas that get this type of equipment and these benefits now. And it's historically smaller communities that it may take 10 or 15 years before you start seeing these pieces of equipment. And so talking about, you know, why is AB 617 important? I think that's one of the main reasons why AB 617 is important, because it allows communities that wouldn't otherwise be able to see these benefits, get these benefits. Instead of being last in line, you have the opportunity to be at the front of the line at getting some of these things done. And so definitely don't want to miss out on the opportunity. That's the reason why we're sharing this. And in speaking with San Diego, once they did make that change and they got that project plan, they immediately saw interest and were able to get people in. They opened up a proposal, and they immediately saw people coming in, and it's been a, you know, broad. It's been all sorts of heavy duty trucks. It's not limited to just, you know, large Class 8 trucks, your classic. It's been box trucks, it's been delivery trucks, it's been, you know, all sorts of things that have been coming in and looking to use that funding. So that's to me why we're, you know, having this conversation and you know, wanting everybody's feedback on it.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, Ryan. And we can continue on with this discussion for 10-15 more minutes and then move to a vote. And so we'll have just a little less time for the other CERT measures, but again, just recognizing the importance of this conversation. So thank you. We can continue, and Diana, I see you have a question.
Sí, buenas tardes. Bueno, son preguntas, comentarios. A lo mejor voy a revolver todo, pero sí tengo varias preguntas. Sé que ya se hicieron algunas de ellas sobre cómo iban a monitorear los camiones que iban a pasar aquí en nuestras comunidades. Si mal no recuerdo, la AB 617, el propósito es para reducir la contaminación dentro de los límites de la AB 617 Arvin, Lamont. El pasar el camión una vez por semana no me va a ayudar a mí en nada, honestamente, no me va a ayudar en nada. ¿Qué va a pasar? ¿Cuántos minutos va a pasar por mi comunidad? Eso no me va a ayudar. Si lo van a hacer es porque va a trabajar dentro de los límites los 365 días del año para que se reduzca esa contaminación, porque eso es lo que buscamos, la reducción de contaminación. Un día a la semana no me va a ayudar. Segundo, si las compañías grandes hubieran visto que ya pueden invertir en estos camiones, ya lo hubieran hecho. Por alguna razón no lo hacen. Entonces, no creo yo que sea justo que se lo den al poderoso y al menos poderoso lo vamos a dejar abajo. Creo que eso no se me hace a mí justo eso de que se lo den a compañías grandes. Ahora, también quería comentar, si quisiera que mejor esto se parara, se esperara, y una propuesta que tengo yo que puedo pensar que puede funcionar es que si no funciona para las flotas de camiones, puede irse a las escuelas a los distritos de las escuelas para los bases. Aquí dentro de la AB 617 de Arvin y Lamont tenemos 3 distritos, que es el de Arvin, el de Sunset, que es Bailen, y Lamont. Pero yo sé que eso puede ser adelante, pero sí no estoy conforme con lo que se está haciendo. Prefiero que mejor se espere y se pare este proyecto.
Thank you, Diana, for your comments. I really appreciate your input. Just to remind everybody, this plan would allow us to restrict the projects that we fund to those that are inside the community boundaries. So that would mean trucks that are operating inside your community boundaries. Now, the 52 trips per year is just the minimum threshold in order to be considered for funding. And we put that there because small companies, say a delivery company, isn't delivering necessarily every single day if their range is only inside your community. Most likely they're delivering 1 or 2 times a week. And those small local businesses are truly the ones we're hoping to target with this plan. But if we make the requirement for mileage too high, they may not be able to meet that. And then they would once again not be able to receive funding. So I'd like to just remind everybody of that. We can ensure that for the Arvin Lamont community, the trucks that are selected are domiciled, meaning they live, they're garage, they sleep and operate inside your community boundaries. I think probably moving on to, I believe Jesus is next.
Thank you. I really appreciate the conversations that are going on and the ideas that are being thrown out. I think that in moments like this where a big decision has to be made, there has to be sufficient time given for us to be able to have a full conversation. And this is referring back to, feeling like we're being hurried up to make a decision when we are still having several questions about it. And then referencing the 52 trips, I'm not a truck driver. I'm not familiar with trucks. I don't know what 52 trips a year means. But if we, from what I understand, if there's a possibility of a truck going through the Lamont Arvin area, maybe even the corner of it, then it would count as a trip through the community. So I don't think that's really seeing emissions reduced in our community. And like had been mentioned before, we want to see reduction within our community. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at alternatives. I mean, it's difficult since we don't, GPS sounds like it'd be difficult, but if there was a way to determine that the trucks spend 70% of their route within our community, that means that 70% of the emissions they produce is being reduced, then that would be more feasible. Mm-hmm. But if we can't figure out a number like that, then absolutely support putting these funds somewhere where it is more feasible or where we can really see emission reduction. And I really love Diana's plan of moving it to the buses, because I think currently only a handful of buses can be bought, split between Lamont, Arvin, DeGiorgio, all the schools. We have several schools here.
Yeah.
So having more buses available to our students would be more tangible for our community, and we'd see the reductions in our community.
Thank you,
And
Jesus.
then, the final note is I'm a bit confused on when we can and cannot stay within the borders that we have set. And I refer to, right now we're talking about allowing trucks that go in and out of our borders to get these funding. However, yesterday at the subcommittee meeting, we couldn't place a monitor 1 block away from our border because that's outside of our border. So there has to be some consistency there, because I recall that the borders were there to determine the residents within the community, and then there was a certain mileage outside of that where we could monitor for more emissions.
Yeah. So when we're talking about mobile sources, I think that's where that line gets a little grayed, because if we want to, if the focus is on removing diesel emissions from your community, then we have to look at what's making those diesel emissions. If it's a truck that's based 3 miles outside of your community, but they are delivering product inside your community, those are diesel emissions in your community. I mean, they've got to drive that 3 miles to get there, but then they're driving around your town and delivering to different stores, whatnot. Or in the case of a fleet that's a company that's based inside the community, they're driving around, and they may actually drive outside the community every now and again for a delivery. But I think that when we compare mobile sources to a stationary source, such as an air monitor, it's a little bit of apples and oranges there. But again, I'm hearing very loud and clear that there's still a lot of questions, which I absolutely get. This is a complicated scenario here. Trucks are not an easy nut to crack. And so, if more time is needed to understand and digest and look at these concepts, that's being heard. We are definitely hearing that. But the way that the plan is currently written, the community does have the ability to say, hey, Air District, we want you to first and only look at trucks that are living inside our community and driving inside of our community. This plan would allow us to be able to take that feedback from you and implement it. And then at a later date, as Ryan was mentioning earlier, if the community says, hey, nobody's really taking advantage of it, but we know of this company that's like 2 miles outside our boundary, and we think they might be interested, this plan would allow us to have that discretion to then go to that company and say, hey, are you interested? Your trucks are inside this community. We want to see if you want to replace them. So there's flexibility there is what I'm getting at, to start with that more stringent requirement and then open it up later. And then again, if there's no interest at all, money can be reallocated. And I'm hearing, and I saw a couple of different thumbs up when it was mentioned of school buses. And that's definitely a wonderful place to put electric technology in, because our kids are always the most vulnerable within our communities. So that's always a great option as well, but that would be a whole separate discussion of reallocation. I know that we're really short on time, so I'd like to just kind of keep going. I think Gabriella is got the next hand raised.
Sorry, Gabriella.
Oh, yes.
Before we go there, there's been a question in the chat that I want to make sure gets read out loud. So the question
real quick
in the chat, the question is about the cost the cost of charging the battery. Would that be cheaper than the cost of diesel?
Yes. So the many of the truck manufacturers, as well as the power companies, have tools on their website to help a fleet identify what their anticipated electric costs would be. So it's going to be different for every fleet because of the type of truck they select, the amount of miles they're going, things of that nature. But on average, there is a savings because the price of diesel is so high now. And oftentimes there are various ways you can help offset your electrical costs, such as solar, things of that nature. So there are definitely tools out there for a fleet to analyze that, to see if it is the right fit for them and if they will in fact see savings going from diesel to electric.
Thank you, Janine. So we can move to Gabriela.
Sí, mire, mi comentario es, apoyo el comentario de la señora Diana Mireles, del que ella dio, y sí, definitivamente yo estoy de acuerdo en que se ocupa más tiempo para discutir esto, porque siento como una presión de que dicen que el tiempo se está acabando y que tenemos que votar para tomar la decisión. Yo siento que todavía es muy rápido para nosotros pensar en el cambio que se hizo acerca de estos fondos.
Liz and Ryan, I'm wondering, because I'm hearing kind of the same feeling from multiple community members, if we can make a decision that this, I think if I remember correctly, if we go to a vote and the vote is, hey, we want more time, we want to discuss this at future meetings, get more information, then that's the action that we would take tonight. Am I correct on that? Are we in a spot where maybe we want to exercise that voting?
Yeah, I understand where the steering committee, it feels like, you know, we're making a decision that is going to be set in stone and won't be able to be changed ever again. And really the conversation was, you know, we have proposed changes that we would like to give to CARB in the form of a project plan to get that conversation started, because that we know is going to be, take months to, possibly change. And, ideally we can, get that process started, with them understanding that that's going to take time for them to review, consider, comment, and, comments that will most likely have to come back to this steering committee. And so, I think a lot of the concern stems from, if we make this decision today, what we're proposing is going to be the end final product, and it'll never be able to be changed. And that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, if we can start the process of working with CARB, working with you on the project, but starting the process of working with CARB to get a proposal in their hands to be able to start considering it, because it just, what we've seen in the past, it can take anywhere up to 6 months in order to get a project plan approved by them.
So Ryan, if I'm understanding everything correctly, if we did go ahead and move to a vote right now, community members could vote to yes, let's proceed with engaging CARB with this concept to get feedback, to get the process going of comments from CARB, or they could vote no, we do not want this plan. We want to just keep the existing program the way it is, and if nobody applies for it, we'll take other actions down the road. Am I correct on that? Because I'm seeing some comments in the chat that there are some community members that do not want any changes now. So with that, with those thoughts being presented, I'm just wondering, for the sake of time, if maybe we should kind of group and get that consensus of move forward to engage CARB, or no, shelf this for Arvin, Lamont, and possibly continue discussions at a later time.
Yeah, thank you, Janine. I think I do see we have more hands up. So there are definitely more questions and a lot coming in the chat. So we can move to a vote, and that would mean if a majority vote no, then the conversation would still be continued at a future time. If a majority votes yes, then that would mean the Air District would move forward, engaging in discussions with CARB about the new project pathway plan that has been discussed. And again, as Ryan was saying, there would still be opportunities to engage with the CSC on exactly what that would look like, but that would get the process going. But those are the two options, as I understand. And Ryan, I see you unmuted, so.
No, that was exactly it. Thanks, Liz.
Okay.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit confusing because both yes and no hold discussion. If that's the way I'm hearing it. No, a vote of no means we discuss, but a vote of yes means we discuss something slightly different. So I think there's some confusion, it feels like, about what's going on here.
Yeah, I think the vote of no would be that we do not move forward with engaging CARB, but we continue to have conversations with the CSC and community on what changes to the truck program should and would look like. A vote of yes would be, we pretty much like what we see here. We like the concept. We want the Air District to go ahead and start those conversations with CARB on this concept and whether or not we can move forward with an approval by CARB of the project, or more likely comments coming back from CARB of what about this, what about that, and then further engagement with the community. So yes, Michelle, I think there is conversations for both answers, but it's different types of conversations. No, a vote of no would be that we do not move forward with engaging CARB on this concept. We continue speaking to the community in the CSC. A vote of yes would be moving forward with engaging CARB.
So they're gonna table it for a later discussion, or just bring it up just back to the CSC? Because if we vote for no, that means that we really don't want to have any discussion, and maybe possibly move the funding somewhere where it's more tangible, that we see some changes in the community.
Mm-hmm. I think that if you do vote no today, I think that from there we would have, and Ryan, please jump in and shut me down if I'm wrong on this, we would engage in a conversation of, hey, which direction do you want to go? Do you want to further discuss this concept, or do you want to just completely do away with this concept and start the discussion of reallocation? So the vote of no today would push us to kind of another question, probably at the next meeting, of which way do we want to go? Keep talking about changes to trucks, or talk about reallocation of funds?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we still have the program open right now, and I know that was one of the things that Gustavo talked about, and if there were people interested, they could participate in it. When we're talking about tangible benefits in trying to quantify, what this program is about, it's about getting, emission reductions, toxic air pollution emission reductions, in the community. And, we are trying to design it, working with you to identify the things that are, if we remove that piece of equipment, we're going to, get emissions reductions specifically in the community, which has real health benefits to it. And so, when we went through that process, one of the, the biggest, if the measure's fully implemented, one of the measures that gets the most emission reductions is this measure. especially toxic air pollution, which is one of the biggest concerns that we heard about during the development of the community emission reduction program. So yeah, why we're looking at this, why we're talking about that's kind of one of the biggest reasons, is looking to remove heavy duty diesel trucks from the community to get those emission reductions. If we were to look at other things, I can't guarantee that we're going to get the same level of emission reductions, if we reallocate those funds, which means that we wouldn't get as much, air pollution reductions, not as much toxic air pollution reductions. And so I think it really was important, and it was quite an achievement, that the community was able to get together when we put this thing together to put that funding towards that, with that, understanding.
I want to say something.
So there will be, Mario, 1 second. So I think that to ensure that every member has an opportunity to speak, so we've heard from many members today with a lot of good questions. We completely understand that many of you are ready to vote no, and a couple of you may be ready to vote yes. So either way, we do need your input, and we need the input from every member so that we can be responsive. So as your facilitators here, we right now, because of Zoom, we have a hard time really identifying the number of people who are saying, yes, let's move forward with this draft plan, submit it to CARB, and then we'll figure out the details later, versus the number of residents and CSC members who are, no, we don't like this draft, let's go back to the drawing board and have a different conversation. So, and you may not have enough information to vote yes or no. And so now this is what it means to be part of the CSC. This is what it means to be an active member of, like, if you don't have enough information, you can abstain or say no or say yes based on the limited information. But at this point, I think we've hit a crossroad. And so that we can give everyone an opportunity to vote, we're going to go ahead and move to breakout rooms, and you will share your vote, and then we'll come back and continue the conversation based on what people said, so that we can give everyone an opportunity to share their opinion, because right now we can't unmute everyone. We have, the 52 people here today. I mean, we just want to make sure that we are taking an adequate representation of a vote that you have now. So it doesn't have any immediate consequence right this second.
I think if we can get a visual of what our decisions mean, that would be helpful, because a lot of words have been thrown out. Option 1 is discussion. Option 2 is discussion. We need to know what we're voting for. So if we can get a visual of what yes means and details of what that means, and then what no means and details of what that means, we might be able to make a better decision.
Yeah,
and
either way, it's a discussion, and that is the trend with the CSC, right? That there's always continuous input and room for modification. So I think Janine, that visual that you had, I'm not sure if there was, if the word yes or no is there, but I think that visual helps kind of scaffold the process.
Dr. Ramos, I just have one last comment. And this is in reference to what Ryan was mentioning, that this is the only way of reduction in the area of Arvin and Lamont. It's actually not the only reduction. There's been other areas where we could allocate this money. They could be a different truck route from the community. There's different ways that we can, this is not just the only set in stone in the area. And this is a community that has been disadvantaged for so long. So having that said, so it's not very fair to push this on community residents that it's necessary to reduce emissions. This is not the only route. There's other routes that truck drivers could do. There's other routes that delivery people could do, not to pass through the community and create those emissions. So I think it's very disrespectful coming from the Air District to say this is the only way to do it. I think we should rephrase that, because there's other options to do it in this way. And as community members were mentioning, there's other opportunities. There's only 4 buses allocated for the community, 2 communities where there's 3 districts. So if we're able to allocate more funding for those buses or change those SERP measures somewhere else that is tangible needed, that could create a reduction. So I think I'm sorry to say it this way, but it's a form of disrespect just to push something to the community if they don't want to see it, if they want to see something tangible in their community. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, thank you, Bianca, for your words and for bringing that up. I just want to clarify, at least in my notes, the way that I understood that comment from the Air District was that this was one of the highest or most potentially impactful. I don't have the quantitative numbers to represent that, but that's what I heard, not the only way. And as you all know, the SERP includes many other measures. And so this vote of yes, thank you, Janine, for bringing this up. This vote of yes means like right now you're comfortable with, let's submit this plan to CARB as a new pathway. A no means don't submit it to CARB, and let's continue the discussion. Clearly, like we're hearing from many of you, my guess is that the vote is a no, but I, as your facilitator, if I really want to be representative of what everyone's saying, I just haven't heard from everyone, right? And I would hate to single people out right now. So the vote helps really have everyone have an actual voice and be heard. Mario, I've heard from you various times. Bianca, like I can call folks out, but that's not appropriate. So either way, you're going to continue the discussion. I think it's just a pathway. And so the other thing that I want to bring to your attention, I'm hearing folks present really wonderful and alternative conversations with a new pathway, but we can't make a decision on that new pathway now because you all need to discuss that and potentially even have a subcommittee. Like you all know the other work that's needed in order to go with what happens next after that no vote. So at this time, Bianca, as a co-chair, and Cesar is not here today, but like I really love your suggestion of, do you want to have every CSC member's vote count and let's count the no votes and the yes votes? Or are we ready to alternate today's conversation?
If I can add something real quick, for those who want to abstain because they do not have enough information, would that be a no vote? Because it looks like that's where more conversation on this would go.
Yeah, we just, again, that would be helpful, right? Because if otherwise, as your facilitator, we're being exclusive and not allowing people that haven't spoken up tonight to have a voice.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people there who need to speak out, I mean, let's keep it real. There's many, members, they don't need to speak. They don't need to say nothing. They just listen.
Right, that's why we put them into breakout rooms, Mario, so that we can have
No, I totally understand, but I mean, you make it sound like that we have to listen to everybody, but most of the people, they don't speak out.
Right, so it is our job to make sure that we provide spaces so they can speak out.
Okay, two, I was gonna say, I feel that this project here is, there was not enough information to the public or anybody here on the community.
Yeah.
And I feel that was the reason why we having these type of problems that a lot of people are not calling about the program. It's lack of communication and lack of knowledge what people don't have. They don't even know maybe these projects exist. And I feel that, you guys have to push more information out there, because if not, projects like this will not work. Because there's a lot of people throw rumors, electrical cars, they're no good.
That is the point that we're trying to make tonight. So I see, Bianca, you've left my screen. As the co-lead, Bianca, do you want to go ahead and move the committee to abstain to a vote yes or no? Or what do you feel comfortable with?
Hey, Amy, and just understanding, where it seems like everybody is at and the concerns that they're expressing and lacking information. I definitely don't get the sense that that we're gonna, it seems like I think the majority of the people are in the no camp. I did see a few yeses. I think at this point, I think we need to work with. I see Bianca saying we should go to a vote.
Sorry, Ryan, you cut off for me.
No, I'm just gonna support Bianca saying we should go to a vote.
You want to go to a vote, Bianca? Okay. We're going to go ahead and move to a vote, Bianca. And if you want to abstain, you can just abstain, and let's just have this for the record. This is the lesson learned in how to engage in these conversations for future times. So what's going to happen right now is that I'm going to open a room, and you will automatically be assigned into a separate room. Lucia, you should be able to move into a separate room. Gabriela and Jose, you should also be able to accept the move. Okay, we have everyone in a room who's supposed to be in a room. And right now we are broadcasting the votes of yeses and nos. This is a public meeting that includes community input for decision making. And so this is a transparent way of ensuring that all members can record their vote for the record. As you can see here, what's being shared on the screen, those of you who are listening in from YouTube or watching this recording, the CSC is currently undergoing a vote for the heavy duty truck measure so that a plan can be submitted to CARB. So that would be a yes vote, and a no vote would be to not submit a revised plan and to continue the discussion with the CSC members to ensure that a new plan or a new pathway is developed. And then, of course, committee members can always abstain from a vote if they feel like they have any kind of objections, don't have enough information, or at this time don't feel comfortable in voting. So at this time, we're not expecting folks to deliberate or have any other conversations except record their vote. Those of you who are watching live on YouTube, or those of you who are watching the recording, at this time, the Arvin Lamont Community Steering Committee is counting an official vote on their choice of submitting the new draft heavy-duty truck plan to CARB. That would be a yes vote, and a no vote would be to not submit the revised plan. And then, of course, members also have the opportunity to abstain from a vote. What you see shared on the screen right now is the current voting that is happening in isolated breakout rooms, just as a function of Zoom, so that we can actually count
every single person's voting preference. At this time, I'm seeing that some of the groups are already back. Welcome back, Heather. Welcome back, Gustavo. Jesus, thank you so much for casting your vote. And thank you all for doing this on Zoom. I know it's a little bit different than if we were in person, we'd be able to take the vote in a different manner. As has been shared in the previous discussion, this is a way for us to ensure that every member's voice is heard and that we can collect their vote on any given changes to the implementation of AB 617. In this case tonight, the vote happens to be about heavy duty trucks and the modification of this measure.
And then just following just a quick question. If the vote is no today, does that mean next meeting we will discuss whether or not we want more information, we want to stay in the same program, or we want to move the funds elsewhere?
None of those things. A vote is that we need more discussion and you're going back to the drawing board. So it's not making a decision on anything else except more discussion is needed. And so things will stay in place. And so that will definitely be, whether it's an agenda item for the next meeting, that is something that you all can discuss. I encourage you to come to the agenda setting meeting and propose including that as an agenda item. Jesus.
Okay, because what I understood was that was the decision being made today.
Yep. So if it's a no, then the discussion needs to continue. But it isn't a yes on what to do, what the actual action item is beyond that.
Yeah, the discussion needs to continue, and within that discussion is, do we want to move forward with changes? Do we need more information? Do we stay the same, and then do we allocate the funds elsewhere?
Yeah.
So Jesus, on that topic, yeah, we'll work with the co-leads and other interested parties on future agendas, on what specific items to bring back to the committee.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you for putting up the visual. That helped out a lot as well.
For suggesting it. Liz, I'm going to jump into the other rooms to herd them over here back to the main room.
So it looks like we have 26 votes, all no's so far. So we have a little bit of an idea. But I think we have about 40 voting members present. So it looks like we still have more to come. So we'll continue to wait for a few moments. Hi, everyone. So it looks like we are closing the breakout rooms. I see more members coming back to the main room. So we'll give just another moment for everybody to join.
Y voy a hacer un anuncio ya que están entrando algunas personas. Cuando ingresen a este canal principal de nuevo, por favor de ingresar al canal de español otra vez, por favor. Gracias.
Thank you for that reminder and announcement. Are all of the groups back? Yes, okay. So it looks like, I mean, on my screen, you can see our voting tracker. And it looks like we have still quite a few votes coming in, but quite a majority vote no. We do have one member who voted yes. And it does not look like there were any abstains. Perhaps a couple people did abstain, but this does give us a lot more clear of an idea of where the CSC is in this decision. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now that we've seen the results. And so again, as we've mentioned a few times, and we do understand it can be very confusing, a vote no tonight means that the CSC will not approve the Air District moving forward with the proposed changes to CARB. So that means at an upcoming CSC meeting, and we get to, again, decide those agendas at the agenda setting meetings. But at a future meeting of your decision, we will return to this conversation, knowing where the CSC stands now and having heard all of these questions. And we will discuss what the CSC would like to do moving forward. We heard some ideas of we could move the funds to other measures, some really great ideas there. And so that's all going to be part of our future discussions together. So just want to thank everybody for bearing with us through that and for giving us the real-time feedback about feeling pressured. So we want to make sure that we do give enough time and space. So we did have some changes to the agenda tonight. It looks like we have just less than 15 minutes left in our meeting. So we can, I think, propose to perhaps do very brief SERP updates, unless Ryan, I'm understanding that wrong, but I do also see that we have some updates as a part of our standing updates that we wanted to make sure to get to. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I can cover a few of the standing item updates immediately after the SERP updates, and I'll keep it very brief, very short. We're gonna look to bring some of this information back at the next meeting. So at this point, I'll go ahead and share my screen real quick. I do want to thank everybody for the comments and the discussion about the heavy duty trucks. And this is like Amy was saying, and this is what this is about. It's about having the conversations and taking the feedback, taking the recommendations from the steering committee, and I know we understand there are tough conversations, tough decisions that are being made, and so we just appreciate all of you for that. So I'll go ahead and share my screen now. So everybody see my screen? Okay, good. So last week our board took the passenger vehicle repair and replace update, and they approved the changes or the CERP measure that was in your community emission reduction program. And so just kind of as a reminder, it allows, it provides increased funding for resident replacement of vehicles up to $20,000. In addition to a passenger vehicle repair measure. These are the events, the kind of two different types of events. One was a community event where people would come out with smog vehicle emissions testing equipment and measure the emissions. If the vehicle were to fail, they could get a voucher to get it repaired at a partner of the program. And so there was a specific funding for that, and $4 million towards replacement of passenger vehicles. So I'm very excited to see that happen. What we're looking to do next is bring back the contractor that has been doing this work all across the valley, working with us, and have done a really good job at working with the communities getting that, helping them, providing them assistance to replace their vehicles, as well as finding places where they can go and get their vehicles tested and repaired. So this is just kind of a summary. So like I said last week, we took it to our board, they approved it. So next month we're gonna look to bring back Valley Can to talk more about the different options and hear from all of you on what you think will be most successful for the community in launching this. So really excited for that conversation. Some of the questions that we want you to think about before next month's meeting. There's kind of two different ways that they hold the vehicle repair. One was the in-person one that I talked about. Another option is it's called the direct option, where people can look online, see a local smog or repair shop that and they can go there and take their vehicle and get it tested and get repairs. So there's two different methods, and so we want to hear from the community what you think will be most beneficial. Is it in-person events? Is it the direct method? Is it a combination of both? So just think about that. And then for the vehicle repair, the Valley Can comes to the community. They often do it in like a restaurant establishment, and they have several people there that are ready to answer questions and help people see whether or not they're eligible and assist them in any way that they can. And so what are some venues where you think they would have really good turnouts, and nights, times a day, and days that these events could be held where it'd be most beneficial. The other update is the residential lawn and garden. Working with you, you allocated $175,000, which is equivalent to 350 lawnmower units. The program is currently open. We can mail out applications and assist with applications over the phone as one of the methods. And currently we're working to release a request for quotation. So several people have expressed a desire, several companies have expressed a desire to provide electric lawnmowers. And so we have to go through a process of opening up and receiving quotations on those devices. And so we have to go through that process. And once we have a vendor, then we would look to work with all of you to identify locations. And we're planning to hold an event early next year, based on those timelines. So at this point, I can stop sharing that. I see Bianca has her hand up.
For the car replacement and the smog, the tune-in and tune-up, would there be an option for community members if they see if they don't see that their smog is not passing and do not want to replace it? Would they have the option to just trade it in for something electric or hybrid that could reduce the contamination in the area? Or it has to go through the program of the tune-in and tune-up, making sure that it's fixed whatever problem is needed? Or can they have that option? It's just a question that I do have for the Air District, because in the past, the tune-in and tune-up, the first option is to replace whatever is needed. Then afterwards, it would be a recommendation to replace it with something that is it's low emission to zero emission. So is it an option, or is it the last option to do when these smog events come in the community?
Yeah, So that's a great question, and they're eligible for either. So I mean, if they want to go the route of getting a voucher to repair the vehicle, they can, but they can also look at the vehicle replacement program.
So if it doesn't, let's just say that they do the program for the tune in, tune up, and you see that it's not a vehicle that would pass a smog, then they would be given the option to do either or just go the first route and then the second route.
Well, yeah, and I should have stipulated one of the requirements is the vehicle does have to be older than 2007. So if it was like a 2015 car that's not passing smog, then they wouldn't be eligible for the vehicle replacement. But if it's in a car that's older than 2007, then yes, rather than getting it repaired, they can go the route of replacing it using the program and getting up to $20,000. Jesus?
Thank you.
At the beginning of the meeting, you mentioned that we would have a discussion and vote on how we can expand or stack the benefits with Valley Can and then the money we've allocated for vehicle replacement. I imagine that would have to take place before, Valley Can comes into the community.
Yeah.
When would we have that discussion and vote?
We're planning on bringing them and that information that you were asking about in regards to stacking at the next community steering committee meeting. That'd be our recommendation. Just try and get this going, try to get the information. It's not that Valley Can would be coming next month and holding events and doing that type of thing. It's really for them to come, listen to the feedback and answer questions from the steering committee.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of both programs. Like I think it's incredible, and I've seen the benefits of it, which is why I'm eager to see it come into the community and then stack with the money we've allocated for it as well. That way, people are eligible. People, Lamont, Arvin, Hilltop, Repatch are able to get more because they're part of the CSC.
Yeah. Okay. Just a couple of real quick updates. So yesterday we had the pesticide subcommittee meeting. Really want to thank Department of Pesticide Resources. I know they're here tonight, as well as the California Resources Board. They brought a lot of information in regards to DPR presented information on pesticide use within the community, and the California Resources Board talked about community monitoring, pesticide monitoring. And so they went through an exercise and using social pinpoint, and we will be sharing out that link for community members also that weren't able to attend yesterday, but still would like to provide feedback. So we'll be including that in an email after tonight's meeting for everybody. We also, we sent out an email today in regards to the California Resources Board, CalGEM Methane Task Force, in regards to a meeting that they're going to be holding soon. They're going to be discussing some studies that they're going to be looking at, and as well as some work that they're doing in the Shafter area. So if you're interested, refer to that email that we sent out. And then just lastly, the annual enforcement report, we are planning to get the draft sent out to the CSC by the end of this week. So those were the updates that I had. Thanks.
I want to say something about the pesticides meeting. I was not really happy with it because when we started trying to figure out to put on our monitors, they started giving me like the measurements where I could put them at. My solution is trying to figure out to fix up the problem where I think, where the problem is at. And not only that, I chose 2 places and I just got one, just because the other ones was out of the borderline. And it's like we discussed from the beginning of 617, that map is not 100% how we wanted it. We wanted to extend it bigger. And they said it was no problem about it. They said we could go out a little bit more further out. And the only thing I'm gonna say that we are not getting the information that what are we asking? I feel that we should try to figure out a better way of speaking words that we could understand, because there's some words that they were saying that even I didn't know them. And I feel that we have to have a better communication of both sides. Like that, we could get a better understanding what we are really asking. And what we are asking is change and to have a better, quality air and the safety for everything. And that's why we choose monitor in a certain place, to get more information to figure out where's the problem.
Yeah.
That's all I
Thank you,
want.
Mario, and I see James here, and I know he dropped in the chat earlier in regards to that coming up yesterday. And so thanks, James, for being here tonight and for taking that feedback and listening.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. And we have a couple more hands up. Bianca.
Just one question. Is the annual report going to be translated in Spanish also for Spanish speaking? And just that questions.
Of course. Yeah, no, we absolutely wouldn't release the document if it wasn't in both English and in Spanish.
Yeah, great question. And Sandra, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Mario was saying. I do agree with him. I think at the pesticide subcommittee yesterday, a lot of the jargon was really hard to understand, right? Like they were talking about measurements and who knows what. All of that was incredibly difficult to follow, and I don't think that's what the community has been asking for, right? Like we've been asking for, exposures to pesticides, how we can find solutions and things like that. I do think the activity at the end was rushed. We only had a little bit of time to actually decide where to put the pesticide monitoring, and I think it should be opened up to the entire CSC because the meetings start at 4 p.m. and some folks are still working, so not everyone can attend those meetings. So I highly suggest that the activity come back to the entire CSC so everyone has an opportunity to decide where they can actually put the pesticide monitoring. And then my second comment was, I do think the vote tonight was rushed and folks had a lot of missing information. I was incredibly confused. Folks were confused. I don't think we should have voted. And I think moving forward, y'all should be a lot more careful on how you say things and how you explain things. And they should be given in a way where it's easier for everyone to understand. Because I think the entire process was very confusing and I'm pretty sure a lot of us are leaving with a lot of questions. The last thing I'm gonna say, because I know we're basically out of time, I would like to be a part of the meetings the Air District has with the co-leads, along with any other organizations. I think the agenda setting meetings don't hold enough time, so I'd love to be a part of those if they're open. Thank you.
Jesus, I see you still have your hand up. Or I don't know if it's new hand or.
No, thank you. No, I just wanted to quickly follow up and just second everything that Sandra and Mario said today about the meetings, about the jargon. It was definitely difficult. And then, and that's referring to yesterday's subcommittee meeting. And appreciate that they, provided presentations. They did provide links, but I feel like we were really looking for answers as opposed to links.
Okay.
So I think next meetings to be able to have information available
Yeah.
And yeah, we just second what Sandra mentioned, today did feel pretty rushed. So for future discussions, to dedicate sufficient time for discussions.
Okay. No, thank you for all that feedback and for the great reminder that, yeah, we definitely need to think about the words that we're using and, try to phrase or say things in a way that it's going to be that people can understand, especially understanding that a lot of what's being discussed is going to be translated into Spanish, and making sure that everybody that is coming into these meetings, gets the full benefit and the full opportunity to participate. So it's an excellent reminder for us, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Joana González. Ya voy a hablar porque tengo como 45 minutos tratando y no puedo. Mario, sí queremos participar, pero a veces no se puede. Para otra de la información, nos dan excelente información, nos mandan por correo excelente información. La meeting de ayer estuvo excelente también. Muchas personas participaron y dieron sus comentarios donde querían los sesos de aire. Y todo estuvo, no se me hace que estuvo el voto correteado, porque tenemos meses, ya el año, discutiendo esto. Sabemos a dónde va el dinero, y desde las juntas que hacemos personales en los lugares, ya se había dicho, hasta mi voto era de que para los tractoristas y eso tienen su propio dinero, que hacen bastante bien, que lo pueden usar, que hagan reglas para que ellos compongan y compren su equipo nuevo, y el dinero que se recauda en becas, que se use para de veras las calles que no se pueden componer, que no hagan polvo o otras cosas que en verdad se necesita el dinero. Y por último, a Gustavo lo interrumpieron y yo alzaba la mano porque iba a dar un comentario casi igualito al que dio el señor Gustavo, que estuvo muy bien y era demasiado importante, y lo interrumpieron. Eso sí se me hizo falta de educación, ¿verdad? Y es todo. Gracias.
Quería decir gracias por tu comentario.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And we have another hand. Brianda, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. And I thought it was a really important discussion tonight. So I do appreciate the district's input on the feasibility of the project and all of the different components and how it could be adjusted to what the CSC wants. So I think it's definitely important to continue that discussion. I kind of just wanted to touch base a little bit about last night's meeting. I think the data was good, but I do correlate with what, excuse me. Sorry, I'm a little winded with what Mario said. I think it was just a little bit off on what the community members wanted to see, because I made the question of why there was that significant spike. And I think the closest answer that we got to that was that there might have just been more crops planted at that point in time, but it was pretty significant, which means that there was a lot of pesticides being used, which means potential exposure to residents. So I think it would be beneficial if that type of data was documented, and then that way we can relay that type of information back. That was all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Tim, go ahead.
Hi, I had a question regarding yesterday's meeting. I tried attending it like 3 times with the Zoom link you sent out, and it wouldn't let me. It kept saying waiting on host to allow you in, and I was there for 15 minutes, and at one point I gave up and just not tried to connect no more. Do you guys know why it was doing that?
That's really strange, Tim. We could definitely look into that. I believe like there's no host requirements to let people in. I think as soon as you, similar to like our CSC meetings, as soon as you open that link, it takes you right into the meeting. So, but we can, if you can, Tim, share the link that was that you were trying to use, and we will use that to or the email that you use so that we can maybe look into that further.
Because I do work for a big company, so they do have VPNs that block us from using our personal computers and our devices to link to sites that they do not approve. But I even tried connecting with my personal iPad on LTE and it wouldn't let me connect. So I was like, there is something weird with the link.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can, Tim, just forward over that email and we'll look into it.
Yeah, thank you, Tim, for sending that over. That must have been something different about that link and how that meeting was set up. And thank you everyone for these closing comments and your feedback. This is the exact kind of feedback that we would love to hear and continuously love to receive from all of you. Your notes are taken and we hope to be able to see many of you at the agenda setting meeting and hope to see you at other subcommittee meetings as well. This concludes tonight's meeting. We do have other general updates. The Air District will be sending the other general updates that we had to skip over via email so that you have those in your inbox. And I hope to be able to see everyone at the next meeting when we do have our agenda setting meeting. And we do hope to be able to continue the discussion at that point of what should be prioritized for the next meeting, which will be held on October 25th at 5 p.m. Thank you for all of you who spoke up today and had an opportunity to share your feedback. And have a good night, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon.